Yes. That. Better.
Are we doing the first one?
Yeah. They switch it.
Oh, we missed it.
No. No.
No.
Hello.
Mario, how was your Shabbos?
Okay. Good. So good that I didn't get up for the year. I slept.
You slept out the afternoon?
Tavach.
Nothing wrong with sleeping. That's what Shabbos is for.
Yeah, that's true.
Next week, you won't have a chance to see.
Wouldn't have time, yeah.
Huh?
Next week, Shabbos is going to be very short. You're not going to have a chance to take a nap.
I will.
They're going to change the clock tonight. Oh, we gained an hour tonight.
But tonight we can sleep an hour more.
Yeah.
By the way, next week we won't have a shear in shul.
Right.
Get the Tavach, Walter.
Shavua Tov, everybody.
Shavua Tov, Walter.
Shavua Tov.
What's up,
Very.
everybody? Hi,
Yeah,
Mario.
There was just such on Anderson Cooper was on CNN now.
Yeah,
with this hour thing of with all the pictures of it peeking to the parents of the hostages, and the guy had his arm. Just unbelievable, but he was really good. Anderson Cooper was really, really very good.
Meanwhile, the vice president's stepdaughter wants to collect money from the Palestinians. You saw that?
No,
Yeah,
what
$73 million or something they collected already for that fund. Aid for children in Gaza.
Yeah, aid for children in
Gaza.
Gaza.
With Jewish girl.
Yeah, Jewish girl. Yeah.
Nice.
Where's
Nice
the girl
parenting.
from?
She's Kamala Harris's stepdaughter.
Yeah.
From Los Angeles.
Mamala Harris.
Yeah.
From Los Angeles.
Kamala, what's his name?
Emhoff, Doug Emhoff is the
Emhoff, yeah.
first
What else
gentleman,
is
or
in
second gentleman, or they call the idiot.
So what was the thing with the dogs?
Wait. Yeah.
No, call him
By the
back.
way,
Hi,
Jerry?
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Jerry Nahuba, Dr. Jerry Nahuba.
How's everybody doing?
Okay.
Good, but not good. That's the way it is.
Right, good, but not good. Right.
They said now it's another 4.
Does somebody have Arnie Ross's phone number? Because he wanted to sign in the Zoom. He didn't have the Zoom. He didn't list it in the.
Yeah, Magda has it.
It's in the Coleno
Magda.
every week.
What happened?
Oh, here's Arnie Ross here.
You found it?
Good number? You don't have somebody knows.
What do you need it?
It's on.
Yeah, I have his number, but it's not the right number.
Okay.
Put it
I
somewhere
have
else.
his personal number,
Yeah,
That's what you want. That's what you want.
Why are you calling
Yeah.
Annie?
I think. I have
Okay.
many numbers here, 4 numbers. The first
gonna-
one. You
yeah.
want me to give it to you?
You have a mobile?
Yes.
Yes.
Send it to you?
You could,
No,
just
no,
give
you
it, just give it to
just
me.
Send it to you. It's easier.
Send it, Harold. You send it to
I'll tell you right now what it is.
Yes,
310
yes,
475
yes.
5377.
Yeah, I have that. I guess, I thought that was his
That's
work
it.
number.
Okay, then-
That's for them.
Okay, so then you have that one, then there's another one. 310 475.
Yes,
We can do that one.
Oh, you did the first one.
No, you want 310 748 9453.
hang on, 478,
No,
310-748-9453.
748.
don't put
Very
him on the
good.
spot. You can't call him right now.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, first number is,
Yeah.
yes, I have it. First number is
I did.
Dr. Ross's
Yeah,
cell number,
yeah.
yes.
That's it.
Which one? 475 is the cell number?
The one I just gave you,
748.
748.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Gonna send him a text. He wanted to sign in tonight. He just didn't have the Zoom. That's not correct. 35308-5.
yeah, too many numbers.
Okay. What tov, everybody? Oh,
What? That's the problem.
Glasses. No, behind it.
Okay, I added
Are we on
him.
Pasuk Chavtes? We're in Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Chavtes. We were introduced to 3 people that caused trouble for Shlomo Melech at the end of his life. We had Hadad from an Edomite, and then we had who ran to Mitzrayim, then Rezon ben Eliada, who went to the north. So now Klal Yisrael has enemies from the south, from the north, and Yerovam ben Nevat was an officer who had been appointed by Shlomo HaMelech to work in his bureaucracy. And we talked about his revolt against Shlomo HaMelech, that he gave tochacha to Shlomo HaMelech in public. And now Pasuk Chavtes begins, Vahi ba'itahi, v'Yeravam yatzam Yerushalayim. Yeravam leaves Yerushalayim. Chazal tell us he never went back. Vayimtzau to Achiyah Shiloni Hanavi. Achiyah Shiloni, who we said is part of the Mesorah, v'hu mitkaseh b'stamach chadasha shneim levadam basadeh. And he was wearing a garment, and we said it was a clean garment. We gave some drashas about that Yeravam's Torah, he was an exceptional Torah scholar. So Pasuk Lamed, Vayispos Achiyah b'samach chadasha asher alav vayikresh 12 kreim. The garment was torn into 12 pieces. And
Ernie, can I interrupt you a second? Just say that there was another opinion that Achia was the one wearing the white garment, and he was tearing it into 12 pieces to demonstrate that ultimately the division of Malchus Yerushalayim and Malchus Yehuda and Malchus Yisrael.
correct. Right. There was a debate
Okay.
whose garment it was. In here it says clearly that Achia grabbed it, whether it was his garment or if it was Yeravam's garment. He tore it into 12 pieces. He gave 10 to Yeravam, and he kept 2. Shevet Yehuda was going to be with Shevet Binyamin. That was the remez of the 2, and the 10 would go with Yeravam. We talked about that a nevuah, which comes along with an action, has to take place. We reminded ourselves that Shmuel Hanavi did the same thing when the garment was torn, when he informed Shaul HaMelech that it was going to be taken away from him. Vayomer l'Ravam kach l'chasra akraim, ki chor ma Hashem l'kei Yisrael ani koreas ha'malcham yad Shlomo. Achia Shiloni is giving in the Vua that Hashem is going to take the Malchus away from Shlomo. V'nasati l'cha eis asara shvatim. And Yeravam is going to be given Malchus over the 10 tribes. And then we learned the Machlokes, the Ramban versus the Ran, about whether or not the Malchus can be taken away from Yehuda or not. Pasuk Lamed Beis. Ve'ashevet ha'echad yelo. Meaning Yehuda and Binyamin here are referred to as one shevet. They were connected Benachlo, and they were also in the Yerushalayim. There was a Ritzua. Part of the Beis Hamikdash was in Binyamin's location because it says Bein Ktefav Shachein, and part of it was in Yehuda's section. So that's why it's referred to as one shevet. Will remain with Shlomo. Why? Leman Avdi David. This is a promise that Hashem made to David. Ulaman Yerushalayim Ayer Shebacharti Bo. Of course, Hashem chose Yerushalayim to be the center of worship. Mikol Shiftei Yisrael. So that remains. Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Yana Shar Zavuni. Why is this happening? Because Shlomo and his house went against Hashem. They bowed down to the Avodah Zarah of the Tzidonim Ashtaros. Lichmosh, which is Elohei Moav, which is the idol of Moav. Ulamilkom, which is the idol of Elohei Bnei Ammon. V'lo halchu b'drachai, did not go into the ways of Hashem. Lasos yashar beinai, v'chukosai u'mishpatai keDavid aviv. If you remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he in Pasuk Yud Aleph of this perek told Shlomo that he's going to be punished, he didn't go into this detail. There he just said, Yana sh'haita zot imach, lo shamarta briti v'chukoti asher tziviti alecha. Here, when Achia is giving the nevuah to Yeravam, he goes much more in detail. The door of Shlomo and was on a very high level, and based with his chachma, he should have been involved in Tikkun Olam, to be a shliach Hashem. In fact, we've learned all along that was really the intent of Shlomo Melech, to bring these goyim closer to Hashem. But these foreign women led him astray. But he wasn't punished because he was not matzliach to bring these nations closer. There were isurim that were over alas avodah zarah, that his women did avodah zarah, and he didn't protest. The Navi is basically telling Yeravam that you have to return unity in Klal Yisrael. Lamed Daled. I will not take all of the kingdom from him. Ki nasi ashitenu kol yemei chayav. He will remain as a melech his life. Why? Leman David avdi asher bacharti also. Asher shamar mitzvosai v'chukosai. David had kept his mitzvahs. But he's not going to be able to be moirish his malucha completely to his son. You notice here he was called Nasi, not Melech. Because in the Torah, in the parsha that talks about the din of a Melech, it says, Asher Nasi Yechta. So the Gemara in Ariya says Nasi Zemelech. But Nasi is a lesser title than Melech in its quality. And therefore Achia is already giving Nevuah that the quality of the Malchus has already deteriorated. And the rest of the nations are not going to be so afraid, and they're not going to be kofuf under Shlomo the way they were during Shlomo Melech's reign. Because he's not going to be, the other reason the Meforshim say he wasn't called Melech here is because he wasn't able to be Moirish his whole kingdom to his son. And the Malbim, in fact, says that the Kriya, that Achia Shiloni tore the garment, is this inyan that he's not being Moirish to his son. A Nasi doesn't always Moirish his Nasias to his son. As we see later on in the times of, the Pirkei Avos, when it lists the various Nasi and Bezdin, wasn't necessarily transmitted. Once Hillel was given the Nasius, then it transferred son to son. Part of that is because Hillel was from Beis David. So that sort of kept the concept of Malchus Beis David alive. Pasuk Lamed Hey. V'lakachti amlucha miyad beno. But in contradistinction, where he's telling Yerovam that I'm not going to take the Malchus away from Shlomo HaMelech at all. In his lifetime, he's going to remain Melech. But I'm going to remove some of the kingship from his son. I'm going to give you, Yerovam, the 10 Shvatim that I'm going to take away from Rechavam. This is a warning to Yerovam not to think that he can take Yehuda and Binyamin later on. He has to be satisfied with the 10 Shvatim. Pasuk Lamed Vav. V'livno eitein shevet echad. To Shlomo, I will give one shevet, which we already said is really two, Yehuda and Binyamin. Liman heyot nir l'David avdi kol hayamim. So it's like a candle that spreads light. That's near. L'fanai b'Yushalayim ha'ira shebacharti li l'shum shmi sham. To remain in Yerushalayim. And Yerushalayim will remain the center of Eretz Yisrael. And again, a warning to Yerovam not to change that. Some Meforshim say that the giving of the Asor Shvatim to Yerovam was only supposed to be for 36 years. It's for a defined period. And therefore Yerushalayim is going to remain the Merkaz for all of the Jews. And all of Yisrael should continue to make Aliyah to Yerushalayim 3 times a year. And Yerovam should participate in that. And we'll see. Yerovam failed in that miserably. V'oscha ekach umalachta. I'm going to take you, you're going to rule b'chol asher teva nafshecha v'yisa melech Yisrael. And you will be king over Israel. He can rule over them, but ofen she'ir tzeh. Or some learn, you can choose which city you want to rule from. And he chose Shechem. And later on, he moved to Pnuel. The Malbim learns, Pshat, that if he rules over his kochot nefesh and his desires, and that he works with Seichel, then he'll be roy to remain king. In fact, the Mari Cross says here that Achia Shiloni wrote a star and signed it, that he can do with his malchus whatever he wants. And what did Yerovam do, the Rasha? He made them all Rishoim. He made them worship Avodah Zarah. Now, how did he do it? Because somebody, as they were getting people to worship Avodah Zarah, a tzaddik would say, how could we leave Hashem? So somebody who already been convinced to be a Rasha would show a Xerox copy of this document that Achia Shiloni showed him. And that Yeravam would be able to rule b'chol asher tava nafshecha. Through this mechanism, he convinced all the Jewish people in his area, the 10 Shvatim, to become Rishon. See, I'm giving a shir now. I'm giving the Navi shir now. I'll call you when I'm done. I'll call you when I'm done. Lamed Ches. Vayam tishma kol asher atzavecha. And now Yeravam is given his marching orders that if you follow my mitzvos, malachta bidrachai vasita yashar b'nei lishmorchu kotzai mitzvosai kasher asad David avdi, v'hayiti mach, I will be with you. Uvaniti lecha bayit neman kasher baniti leDavid v'natat lecha Yisrael. Yeravam ben Nevat is given an opportunity of a lifetime. He was going to be a king with and continue to build a house like David. Va'anezer David lemanzot. This will be a torture to the children of David. The fact that I took the 10 Shvatim away from them. But not forever. Malchus Beis David was intended to come back and be the single Malchus over all of Klal Yisrael. Rashi says, Al Yemosa Mashiach, Da'az Yimlechu Malchus Beis David Levada B'li Shum Siyur. He brings from Seder Olam that the Gzeira, that the Malchus should be taken away, is only for 36 years. Why that? Because that's the number of years that Shlomo was married to Bas Paro. So it's Mida Keneged Mida. The Ramban ala Torah says that Achia meant for only Yeravam to rule. And anyone who rules after him will be over the love of Lo Yasser Shevet Yehuda. The Radak in the Malbim said that even in the period of time that there were Malchei Yisrael, the Judea kings would be very strong, and they wouldn't be, like under the thumb of Malchei Yisrael. The Malchus was supposed to come back to Beis David in the time of Asa, where we're going to be introduced later on. But he did a bad thing. He sent bribes to Melech Aram. He didn't rely on Kadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore it says it was punished. This Asa Melech, who's another Davidic king, like it says in Yalkut Shimoni, Omer Rabbeinu Atida Ita Malchus Lachzor B'mei Asa. If he hadn't gone bad. Af Yeravam Yuzacha Kiba Malchus Al Yisrael Shloshim V'Shavah Shonim. We live no sholosh. If Yeravam would have merited, he would have even been given more Malchus than he was entitled to. But at a minimum, the Malchus would not return to David HaMelech's heirs until after 36 years. Pasuk Mem. Vayvakesh Shlomo lamit et Yeravam. Because Yeravam tried to rebel, like it said in Pasuk Chavav, Vayarem Yad B'Melech. By the way, in Divrei Hayomim, it's more explicit. It says, Vayakam Yeravam ben Nevat Eved Shlomo Vayimrod al Adonav, and he rebelled. And so Shlomo, because a Moired b'Malchus is deserving of Misa, wanted to kill Yeravam. Yakum Yeravam, Vayivrach Mitzrayim al Shishak Melech Mitzrayim. Yeravam escapes to Mitzrayim. Vahi b'Mitzrayim ad mot Shlomo. And Yeravam stays in Mitzrayim until the death of Shlomo. What were the things that Yeravam did that made him a moed b'malchus? He was mochiach Shlomo b'Rabbi, and he embarrassed Shlomo. Number two, he removed his tefillin in front of Shlomo, which was like also a rebellion. The Rambam in Hilchos Malachim says, "Kol hamoed b'melech Yisrael, yesh lemelech reshut lahargo." A person who rebels against a Jewish king, the king can kill him. Afilu gozer alecha mishara am sheilech lemokom ploini. The king says, "I need you to go to Tel Aviv." V'lo halach, chayv misa. Like it says in Yoshua, "Kol ish asher yamred picha." V'chein, says the Rambam, "Kol hamavazet hamelech." If you embarrass the king or macharpo, or you curse him, yesh lemelech reshus lahargo. And therefore, the Moira doesn't have to go to Beis Din. It's the Ritzon of the Melech. And therefore, the Yad Ramah, Chidushei Aran, they all hold that Shlomo had the right to kill Yeravam as a Moira. But only Shlomo did. After the death of Shlomo, Rechavam didn't have the same right. It's only the king that can do it against the one who was moed against him. Rechavam didn't have the right to do that. Pasuk Mem Aleph. V'yeser divrei Shlomo. The other words of Shlomo. V'chol asher asa v'chachmato. Everything else he did with his wisdom. Halohem ksuim al sefer divrei Shlomo. So our Navi here, we said is Yirmiyah, up until now is written about Shlomo Melech, what is needed for generations.
But what's this? What's this? I'll say for Divrei Shlomo.
So that's what I'm saying. Up until now, everything that we've been reported, who's the author of Sefer Melachim? Yirmiyah Navi. So these books of Nevi'im are not a history book. Everything that we learn, that's why we're always trying to bring out the Musar and the lessons. Everything that a Navi wrote for generations, there's a purpose why they wrote it. A lot of other things happened in Shlomo Melech's life that he didn't write. What was needed for Ledoros has been written. Now he's saying other things. And if you want to know other things, there was a special sefer where all the Divrei Shlomo was there. Now, at the end of a Melech's life, the Navi is reminding us this, that everything he's written those items that are needed for future generations. But if you want historical facts, he sends you either to something that was called Sefer Shlomo, which was a more detailed chronology of what Shlomo Melech said and did, or Sefer Divrei Yomim. Right? Many times he'll say, Halohem Ksuvim b'Sefer Divrei, in another Sefer. And that's why we have some extra details in Divrei Yomim that we don't have in Sefer Melachim. Because remember, Tanakh is divided into Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim. Sefer Melachim is in Nevi'im. Writings in Nevi'im have this purpose. That which is written is for Doiros. What's not written, there was nothing special to learn from that. Now, the Radak learns differently. He says, Sefer Divrei Shlomo, like Walter asked, includes the Sforim that Shlomo HaMelech wrote with his wisdom that we have today, which is 3. Shir HaShirim, Mishlei, Kohelet. In all of them, there's Divrei Chachma. And it's called Sefer, but it's considered like one Sefer. Shir HaShirim Rabbah, the Medrash of Shir HaShirim says, Gimel Sfarim, Kosav Shlomo, Mishlei, the Koheles, Shir HaShirim. Eze Mehen Kosav Tchila. Which one did he write first? So there's a machlokes between Rav Chia, Rabbah, and Rabbi Yonasan. Rav Chia Rabbah Omar Mishlei Kosav Tchila. He wrote Mishlei as a young man. Achar Kach Shir HaShirim, V'achar Kach Koheles. We had learned a pasuk in Melachim Perek Hey Yud Beis. Vaydaber Shloshes Alafim Mashal. Mashal is a Sefer Mishlei. Then the pasuk says there, Vayishiro Chamishava Elef, and the songs were 5,000. Zeh Shir HaShirim. V'koheles Besof Omar. That's what the Shir HaShirim Rabbah says. Masnisa Amra Shloishton Kosav Ka'acha. He wrote all 3 at the same time. Tony Rav Chia Rabbah, Rakle Zikna Shlomo. Only as Shlomo aged, Shar Salav Ruach HaKodesh, the Amar Gimel Sfarim, Mishlei Koheles V'Shir HaShirim. Now, we are familiar with the last opinion. Rav Yonasan Amar Shir HaShirim Kosav Tchila. Shir HaShirim is a love song. You're in love when you're young. So he wrote the Shir HaShirim. Doesn't mean only when you're young, but Shir HaShirim was written when he was young. Achar Kach Mishlei, Achar Kach Koheles. And Rav Yonasan learns it, Umaisel Rav Yonasan Miderech Eretz, from the behavior of human beings. Kisha Adam Nar Omer Divrei Zemer. When a young man writes love songs. Higdiel, when he gets a little older, wiser. Omer Divrei Mishalot, he then says parables. Hizkin Omer Divrei Avalim. Then he says everything is heaven. Because I'll say, to remind us, Shabbos Nun Vava Mebeis, whoever says Shlomo Melech sinned is a mistake. He made a mistake that he took foreign wives. He made too many, which is negative Torah. His wives caused him to turn his heart. Mishum Shaiso Limchos Lo Micha was supposed to protest, he didn't protest. V'nena Shalzeh, Shenakacha Malchus Mimenu. And that we said that was a limud la'olam. With all his kavanos, we said his kavanos were good, but there's a famous pasuk in Mishlei. Ein chachma ve'ein tvuna ve'ein eitzel neged Hashem. You can't be an uber chacham, and you can't outthink Hashem. Yet, lo nafal mimadrikato gavoa. He remains on a high level. He didn't lose his olam haba, which we went through, and his 3 sforim were miskabel as kitzvei kodesh, because they had milas, very great milas. Some say that Shlomo understood that he sinned, and he regretted and did tshuva. And what was his tshuva? The 3 sforim that he wrote. That was part of his tshuva. And we learned this before. In Yirmiyah, the haftorah that we learned on Tisha B'Av, Korma Hashem, Al Yitalel Chacham B'Chachmato. A person should not praise himself too much because of his wisdom. V'yitalel gibor b'gvurato. A mighty warrior shouldn't praise himself with his strength. Al yitalel ashir ba'ashro. Somebody who's very wealthy shouldn't praise himself too much. Ki ani Hashem osech chesed mishpat u'tzedakah ba'aretz. Ki be'ela chafatzti num Hashem. Shlomo was all three of these things. He was chachma, gvura, and ashir. In the end, it wasn't worth anything because he sinned. And that is actually the lesson that Yirmiyah Navi teaches us, L'doros, what is important in the life of a person. Pasuk Mem Beis. Vayamim asher malach Shlomo b'Yerushalayim al kol Yisrael 40 shana. Shlomo Melech ruled 40 years. The difference, David also ruled 40 years, but David didn't rule in Yerushalayim except 33 years. 7 years David ruled in Hebron. Vayishkav Shlomo im avotav. Shlomo goes to rest with his forefathers. Vayikaver be'ir David aviv. Vayimloch Rechavam beno tachtav. And his son Rechavam became the king. When Hashem spoke to David HaMelech in Shmuel Beis Perek Zayin Pasuk Yudalet, and he promises David that his son will be king, it says, Ani yelo la'av, I will be a father to him. V'hu yeli leben. V'chativ b'shevet nashim uvnigei bnei adam. I will sort of rebuke him with people, and it says nigei bnei adam, nigei like a nega, like a rash. Rashi explains there, b'shevet anoshim ze hadad v'razon ben al yadav. We were introduced in this perek to these two kings who later in life, in Shlomo Melech's reign, began to chepa with Klal Yisrael. What's this benigei bnei adam? Those of us who've learned the Daf Yomi, Ze Ashmodai. Ashmodai was the king of the Shadim. Shedachum im malachto. The Gemara gives us a whole story that Ashmodai took the place of Shlomo Melech. And Shlomo Melech wandered around the countryside. Nobody knew who he was. And the Nigei Bnei Adam referred to these Shadim. The first 130 years after Adam separated from Chava, after Hevel died, was killed by Cain, the Kabbalah tells us these Shadim were created then. And so the message that Hashem gave to David is that Shlomo's not going to lose his malchus, but he's going to get punished in order to be machzir him to Tov. It's going to come through people, which was Hadar and Razon, and through these Nigei Bnei Adam, which is these Mazikin, and Ashmodai was the king of the Shadim. The story of Ashmodai is in Masechta Gittin, Samech Ches Amud Beis. There, at the end of the story, there's a machlokas. Rav Shmuel did, after Ashmodai replaced him on the throne, did Shlomo Melech come back and rule as king? Rav says he did. Shmuel says he didn't. Right? They say Melech vehed yot v'lo chazer l'malchuso, and some say he was chazer l'malchuso. And by the way, there's a raya that he never became king again, that he was Melech v'Hedyot and he was not Chayzer, because this pasuk, it doesn't say Vayishkav Shlomo HaMelech im avoisa. It says Vayishkav Shlomo im avoisa. Okay. Let's begin Perek Yud Beis. And does anybody have any comments on anything we learned so far in this Perek? Okay. So, Vayelech Rechavam Shechem. Rechavam goes to Shechem. Ki Shechem ba kol Yisrael lamlichoso. Shechem is in the Chelek of Ephraim. So the Radak says, Hatam sherechavam alach l'Shechem, bishum shanavu asher amar Achia Shiloni liravam noda. The Radak holds that people heard about the nevuah of Achia Shiloni telling Yeravam that he's going to be the king. Lefichach sholchu Yisrael v'karu lo. So the people in Ephraim, representing all the other tribes, sent for Rechavam. Ubiksho limtzo alila laseva m'chal Yeravam. In truth, the Radak says, they tried to find some excuse to take the kingship away from him and give it to Yeravam. That's why they didn't want to go Yerushalayim. Lefichach lo ratzu lavo Yerushalayim. Elobau l'Shechem, shum Ephraim, v'Yeravam Ephraim. V'hutzrach Rechavam lavo Shechem. It forced Rechavam to come to Shechem. So kol hakibutz b'Shechem lo yanas el kidei lamlich es Yeravam. The way Radak is learning, the whole purpose of going to Shechem now was to get rid of Rechavam and to put Yeravam on the throne. They came up with an excuse. They said, they're going to be kashtem me'et Rechavam la'kel olo and lo aita ela alila. They are going to request from Rechavam to lighten the load. Remember, we learned that Shlomo Melech built the Beis HaMikdash. He built his palace. It said there were 80,000 nosei sabal, 70,000, 150,000 people were working. And there was mas, there were taxes that Shlomo Melech levied on the people to fund everything that was going on in the palace, which we read. The kings were coming, he was entertaining. So the people had a request. The Radak is learning this request was not authentic. It was an excuse. They want to get rid of him. They're going to ask to lighten the load, but they already had in mind, they knew about the nevuah of Achia Shiloni, and they wanted to switch horses. Now, the Musar HaNevi'im, which is a source that we use a lot, let's follow Pshat, that not like the Radak is learning, that the people want to be Mamlich Rechavam, but they want to have conditions. They didn't know anything about the Nevuah of Achia. And Rechavam may have felt, says the Musar Nevi'im, that there was some rebellion coming from Shevet Ephraim. So Rechavam, as a smart politician, went there to calm them down, give them kavod, and he wants them to continue the Melucha. And based on this pshat, they wanted to be Mamlich Rechavam. And therefore their request to lighten the taxation was a true request. Now, I thought we just read the pasuk, Vayimloch Rechavam b'no tachtav. What's this thing that they have to be Mamlich Rechavam? He already was Yoresh, the Malchus from his father. So the Malbim here explains that the Rechavam didn't need anointing, and he didn't need a process of a coronation. We learned in Horayos, Ein Moishchin Melech ben Melech. So David was anointed. So, but after the son after a king doesn't need anointing. But Yisrael bikshu toyana ubal lamlicho shebezeu diu lo shadayin eno melech ad yamlichu. They wanted consent of the governed. They wanted to know, they wanted to let him know that you're not going to be melech unless it's our desire. And therefore you have to fulfill the conditions that we put on you. That's why they went to Shechem, not Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim, he would have Shevet Yehuda behind it. Shechem was Yosef, who was the opposite of Yehuda. Some say that the mitzvah of appointing a melech is a mitzvah that goes l'doros, even for a melech ben melech. And that's the Sefer HaChinuch says. Inyan ha-mitzvah eino limnos melech chadash levad, aval minyanau kol ma shezacharnu limnos melech chadash im tiyeh siba shenitztarich lo. If you need a new king, fine. V'gam kein lamid amlucha b'yad ha-yoresh, v'latet mora'ah aleinu. We have to put his fear on us. So you have to do a coronation ceremony even for a melech ben melech, says the chinuch. Now, was the nevuah of Achiyah Shiloni to Yerovam, was that publicly known or not? So the Gemara in Sanhedrin Kuf Beis Amud Aleph. There's a pasuk in Micha. Lachein titni shluchim amoreshet gat batei achziv la'achzav l'malchei Yisrael. Amar Chanina bar Papa yotza baskol va'amar lahen. When Rashi over there says when they were going to make Yeravam the king, they said Misha harages aplishti, referring to David HaMelech, and that's what this reference to the city Gas, because Goliath came from Gas. Lachein titnu shluchim levanav shetazu machus beis David v'samliuch hachem. This led eventually to the split, and now you're going after Malchei Yisrael. So the Gemara says, "Nenshu Yisrael al Shem lichus Yeravam shelo yami machus beis David." Now, how could a Baskol come out like this? I thought HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Achiyah Shiloni that he's going to be king. So what's the head of Yisrael that they were Mamlech Yeravam? Comes out from this Gemara that the people really didn't know the Nevuah of Achiyah. And all they wanted to do was to rebel against Beis David. That's why there was a Baskol that they were being punished. So that's not like the Radak. The Radak seems to say that they did know about the Nevuah. So that's a Machlokes Samaforshim. By the way, it's not coincidental that this civil war or this split is taking place in Shechem. It says in Sanhedrin Kuf Beis, and the Radak brings it here. Tana Mishum Rabbi Yossi, Shechem, Makom Mezuman Leperonos. Shechem is a place that was set up for bad things. B'Shechem Inu es Dina. The rape of Dina occurred in Shechem. B'Shechem Machru Echav es Yosef. In Shechem, the brothers sold Yosef. B'Shechem Nechleka Machus Beis David. Machus Beis David was divided in Shechem. Rav Shimon Rafal Hirsch says, it's all the same. It relates to brotherhood and achdus. That when they raped Dinah, what happened? Shimon and Levi, Achim, the brothers, they tried to save her, which is a good thing. But they ended up killing the whole city, which was not a good thing. Yaakov Avinu got extremely mad and cursed them at the end of time. Shimon v'Levi Achim klei chamas mechoraseim. So they used the midah of achva for a bad thing. And of course, the Mechiras Yosef they used achva on the wrong thing. And here the same thing, where Klal Yisrael split into two. Every midah has good things, every midah has bad things. A midah of achva can lead to good things, but in that case it didn't lead to good things. Pasuk Beis. Vayiki Shmo Yeravam ben Nevat, v'hu odenu b'Mitzrayim. So Yeravam hears that Shlomo Melech died, and he was in Mitzrayim. Asher Baruch B'nei Melech Shlomo. Vayeshav Yeravam b'Mitzrayim. Yeravam was living in Mitzrayim. He didn't come back straight away. Vayishlechu vayikru lo. The Bnei Yisrael called for him. Vayavo Yeravavim called Kal Yisrael. Vayidabru. They came to Shechem. Vayidabru lechavam leimor. This shows the mile of Yeravam. It says in Brachos Samichdal. Somebody who tries to push, like a person tries to get into a position quick, but it's not really his time, he's going to be pushed off. Yeravam had patience. The Klal Yisrael wanted Yeravam to be the Rosh HaMedabrim, to bring forth their complaints to Rechavam. And this is according to the Pshat, that they were going to accept Rechavam if he lightened their load. Others say, like we learned, the Abarbanel sort of agrees with the Radak, that they had heard about the Nevuah of Achia, and they came to make him the king. And they didn't want a Bechlal to be Mamlech Rechavam. The whole thing was just a trick. Dalit. Avicha hiksha suleim. What did they say to Rechavam? Your father Shlomo, put a great yoke on us. Ve'ata, you, ata now, hakel me'avodat avicha. We ask you to lower, make it easier on us. Hakasher. And then we will serve you. They said, you're not going to be like Shlomo HaMelech, your father. You're going to entertain all the people all over the world. What do you need all of these horses and houses? Leave them. And that was a true thing. The Radak explains the reason that the people under Shlomo Melech accepted the yoke, it was peace. They were making a lot of money, so the taxation was easy on them. They had no enemies. But now we were introduced at the end of last Perek. They have an enemy from the south, Hadad. They have an enemy from the north, Razon. So they're worried. Now, the Malbim, remember, the Malbim lived in the 1900s. He's aware of political philosophy. John Locke, late 1600s. And, of course, the French Revolution. The Malbim's aware of all that. So he describes two types of kingdoms. Mamlechet Mugbelet, like a constitutional king. The Glorious Revolution in 1680, the parliament, they made the laws. There was no absolute king anymore. So as a king, he can't do anything he wants. He needs the consent of the people. But there's something called an absolute monarch, and he does what he wants. Henry VIII, off with their head. I mean, he was an absolute monarch. And a monarch could put whatever taxes and work without asking them at all. During David HaMelech's time, it was a limited king. But Shlomo had converted it to an absolute monarch, and he put a strong all on them. Whoever went against it would die, and we saw him killing all these people who David HaMelech told him to kill. Now, he did it for the good of the people. So we had to be quiet, said the people during the time of Shlomo. He was he was ruled over the whole world. And we didn't have the power to rebel against him. But you're not Shlomo, the Malbim says. And not only that, you're not king yet. We're going to make you king only if you follow the conditions we put on you, which is reduce taxes. Now, did the Jewish people, were they right in din? Could they come to him as the Ben of Shlomo and go through all of this? The Rambam already said in Hilchos Melachim, he brings from Shmuel, that remember Shmuel warned the people when they requested a king that the king is going to take your daughters and do whatever he wants to you. So the Rambam says, Osr lamelech laharbois kesav v'zav. If just to have horses and just to have too much money, the king doesn't have the right to do it. So the people's request to Rechavam is not inappropriate. Now, even if it was, maybe they had a right to say it, it seems a little bit bizayon. They said, Avicha hiksha. Why not say Hamelech Avicha? So there's a little bit bizayon there. So what does Rechavam do with this request? Vayomer aleihem lechu ad shloshi yamim v'shuvu elai vayelchu ha'am. He doesn't answer them right away. He requests 3 days. He should have given them an answer right away. Now he's going to go ask advice. And even when he comes back later, it's going to be clear that whatever he says, it's not really maybe his complete ratzon. It's going to be what he hears from the advice that he gets. The advice, he's going to go to 2 groups and get advice. And he's going to choose one of them. And we will decide as a group whether what he did politically was good, and we'll see the results of that next week.
Ernie, it sounds like he's showing weakness. He's showing weakness, indecisive.
By the 3 days.
Doesn't sound like he's a ruler, or certainly not like Shlomo Melech.
Right.
You know, the other question I wanted, David HaMelech didn't build the temple because he spilled a lot of blood. Why did he make his son kill this one and that one to spill blood too? I know he had revenge on some of these people, but you said that he killed a lot of people.
No, he did.
Shlomo.
Shlomo was people who went against him, right?
Yeah.
If they were Moired b'malchus, he didn't hold back against killing him. He wasn't a man of war like David was. He didn't go out with his armies and he did it. Those that tzivud in the kama and as a moirid b'malchus. I brought that as part of this issue of is a king allowed to kill somebody who's moirid b'malchus? He is. that didn't disqualify him from building the Beis Hamikdash because he really wasn't a man steeped in blood. He didn't kill the kind of people that David HaMelech's armies killed. Right? David led armies that went and conquered and all of that.
Okay.
David also gave them advice. They don't have money to, they're in a low economic situation. So he says, go and fight the nation in order to get livelihood.
David, that's a Gemara, that's a Chazal that you're quoting, that the Sanhedrin came to him and he gave him eitzes on how to make economy. Oh, so you're saying that's what, so David was a warmonger.
Yeah, seems like.
David was why he was considered an Ish Damim, because one of the eitzes he gave to the people, like guns and butter, like the United States came out of the Depression during World War II, when they had to build the tanks and the planes, and it was economically. So there's a Gemara like that.
They still like wars, even the one that's going on now. They can make a lot of money from it.
How? We're not going into a recession. How?
What do you mean how? They sell all the missiles, they sell all the tanks, they sell all the airplanes. People pay for them.
Right, the 14 billion that's been given to Israel, it's coming right
Come
back
back straight back to
Yeah.
American manufacturers.
Exactly.
That's how they make money. It's not staying in Israel. They're paying for their war.
By the way, a lot of foreign aid is conditionally written like that. That they don't have the right. They don't have the right to spend it. It's tied. We got to buy American products.
Right, you got to
right,
buy
yeah.
American weapons. So the weapons industry loves it. They got a lobby for that. That's what makes money for the country. David HaMelech was very smart.